What's up, guys? So I'm going to continue on with my year-end music reviews now, doing the uh, top albums of my year. I already did the lower albums that I purchased. Now, I intended to do it split 50-50 because I bought 12 albums, but I did a slight miscount, I guess. I accidentally did 5 albums in my first half. Now I got 7. I actually do think it's a pretty decent divide, though, because first video I made, basically everything I had some sort of nitpick about everything. Nothing was terrible, but I mean, that is, the lower half of the albums that I bought this year. So, I mean, obviously there's a reason for that, but, I'm not buying it if I don't enjoy it. So, I mean, it's not terrible, but... So this is the upper half. I don't really have any nitpicks about any of these. Nothing's, I don't think, is particularly bad about any of them. They're ranked more than anything just on kind of personal preference. So, start off, we have from A Sky So Black, Touch Heaven, one of the many bands that I discovered at small shows that were playing in the back room of this small coffee shop with a few other local bands that I enjoyed. I will admit I'm not a big fan of their name. It just kind of gives like generic emo vibes, and they do have a touch of emo to their sound, but they kind of blend the whole new metal, shoegaze, emo. Sorry, I know I kind of mess up my words a lot, but whatever. But that's kind of their sound. It's not lost on me that a band that sounds kind of like Deftones put out a better album than Deftones this year, at least in my opinion. I've been discovering more and more bands that are like that, and like I said, Deftones is kind of the band that everybody knows with that sound, but there's a surprisingly strong underground scene of bands with that type of sound, like Slow Degrade, a local band, was at that show too. They kind of have that sound too. So, and I think they're pretty fucking cool. So that was a good discovery for me this year. Next is another artist that is no longer local to my area. Hasn't been for several years actually, but he's kind of the legendary artist of my area. At least that's how I view him. I know many other people view him that way, but from Chris Staples, we have Don't Worry. I really like this cover. That's probably my favorite cover that he's done. This is some of his most intimate songwriting, I would say. Like, this isn't a fully acoustic album, but I kind of feel like maybe there should be just, him and an acoustic guitar version of it. I think that would go over really well. I've always kind of liked the way how he blends all of his instruments together and kind of makes songs that could work in a solo environment or more full band environment. Kind of feel like this album is probably has a bit more of a less is more approach to it. I feel like it's done pretty effectively. So yeah. Next, got a couple local artists back to back that I'm going to show. First off, from Lights with Fire, 5 Leaves of Glass. This does have a back print to its insert, but otherwise it is just, DIY CD. But something that I think is kind of always interesting about particularly local bands. You tend to get to know them better by their live show than their recording. So sometimes when they put out their recordings, it kind of catches you off guard, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, sometimes in a neutral way. But, just in general with local music, their live performances are going to be, they're not going to be high production. Their performance themselves will be bad, but, I mean, there's... God, that sound came out wrong. Messed up my words again. But their performance themselves is good, but, in regards of like, production and all that other stuff. It's going to be a very raw sound. It's not going to be like, a big stadium band or, a band like Coldplay that shamelessly mimes to backing track. But yeah, that's kind of a huge case, I'd say, with Lights with Fire. Obviously their live shows are what drew me in, but then when I heard this album, such really good production on it. It has this nice ethereal quality to it, kind of dreamy quality that, I'd compare a lot to bands like, the Cranberries, So that kind of caught me off guard, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, this was a really solid album. Vocalist is probably one of my favorite within the local scene. Next up, from Tiralira, we have Character Study, another local band. This similarly has a pretty strong production on it. Once again, we have the back print. I just want to show you. But yeah, pretty just in general unique sound that they have. Even when you do see them live, kind of blend a bit of new wave and jazz rock together. And something about this album in particular kind of makes me appreciate how most of the time I'm alone. I mean, in general, if you've seen me at a show, you kind of know that I tend to kind of keep to myself a lot, I'm an introvert, and this, I don't know, something special about this sound on this album kind of like, makes me appreciate that, no one's watching me while listening to music, so, I can just kind of dance around and have some fun, So, yeah. All right, next up, I did pick this one up on vinyl as well. I'm showing the CD. It was for complicated delivery reasons that I think I initially ordered it on CD because I was kind of skeptical about how much I was going to enjoy it. It didn't get delivered. I ordered on vinyl, and then several weeks later, all of a sudden the CD shows up. But from Mark Pritchard and Thom Yorke, Thom Yorke being from Radiohead. I need a water break. 1 second. Sorry about that, but yeah, from Mark Pritchard and Thom Yorke, we have Radiohead. So both the CD and vinyl that I got are the special editions with the books inside them. And it's just easier to show all that as a CD. But yeah, this is probably the most electronic-driven project that Thom Yorke has been involved in. Funnily enough, some of the songs kind of give me Gorillaz vibes. And I don't know, I was kind of a little bit skeptical at first just because I felt like it's probably some of the biggest change in the Thom Yorke sound that he's done in a good while. I mean, he's always dabbled in electronic, but to some degree, this probably is most electronic-heavy album to date. But I don't know, like, once I finally heard the full album, I became a believer in this. For a while, kind of felt like this might be the top album of the year. It was kind of the first, what I say is like really particularly strong release of this year. And yeah, it's my third favorite album, so. And here's the actual CD. We'll say that I'm not too wild about a lot of the art for this. Looking back, I think I would have been okay getting just the standard edition, but there you have it. All right, so my favorite release from a local artist was Ballistella's SOL. Their sound is really complex and diverse. Like that ghost right there. The art's kind of abstract on it. Yeah, kind of blend in. Mix of like pop rock, dream pop, funk, psychedelic. They're pretty diverse sound. Sorry if I'm kind of not really feeling too well right now, if I'm being honest. But I'm gonna power through this, whatever. But yeah, don't really got a whole lot more to say about that. But they don't really do live shows that much, because I don't think they've done a live show since the release of this album, and that was pretty early on in the year. So yeah, it always is nice to catch them when I can. I think I've only actually seen them like maybe 3 times total since I've known of their existence. But yeah, my #1 album of the year, and this is the second time in a row that they've released an album that was my favorite album of that year from Coheed and Cambria. We have Vexus Act 3, The Father of the Make Believe. Really cool cover art. It is kind of a bit of an awkward gatefold since it goes in both directions. Yeah, this might be a hot take, but I do truly believe that Coheed and Cambria are currently in their peak era. These last 3 albums or so that they've released. With that said, I do think that this is probably the weakest album of their Vexus era. It does go a little bit more pop than their other albums have. I kind of feel like that's sort of the direction in general that they've gone, because first album of the Vexus series was a lot more raw. You know, it still had that kind of space rock edge to it, but you know, it was kind of a little bit more raw, aggressive, fairly heavy for them. I kind of feel like ever since that, they've been kind of gradually going more and more pop, which isn't necessarily a bad direction for them, but I kind of would like to see them get a little bit more wild on their next release. But still, I do think that Coheed and Cambria have been going really solid lately. So yeah, that is my favorite album of the year. So that's all of the albums now. I got one more segment left for this series, and that is going to be the live albums. That's going to be early next year. I'm not entirely sure when. I'd say hopefully within the month of January, but it depends on whenever that last album comes out, because it's already been released digitally. So yeah, I'll see y'all when that happens.